So, there was one big reason I wanted to play this game growing up, and two big reasons I ended up not playing the game. You know, Phantom Hourglass. This game is another portable game that uses the art style of Wind Waker, but unlike Minish Cap or the spin-offs that use this style, this game is a direct sequel to Wind Waker itself. This Link that we're playing is the same one that set sail to save his sister from a large bird in Wind Waker, and this time he's trying to save Tetra from a nasty fate. So, while I really wanted to play a sequel to one of my favorite Zelda games of all time, there were a few things stopping me. For starters, I'm not the biggest fan of 2D Zelda. I don't hate it, but it isn't a must-buy for me either. But the biggest reason has to be the touch controls. I'm not a big fan of touch control gimmicks in general. The touch screen is not my thing. Yeah, I know. I ended up not being a big fan of the original DS in general. But unlike many of the DS games, this game was entirely touch control. Hardly any button use at all. Look, I may not like motion controls, but at least they don't break immersion. What's weird is it seems like a lot of people that I've met defend touch controls of the DS over the motion controls of the Wii. Personally, I just don't see it. Regardless, it was only a matter of time that I play this game. I love Zelda games, hence why I came up with this excuse to play all of the games that I missed out on. So let's get this started. Link, Tetra, and her crew are investigating a big threat, and Tetra ends up getting kidnapped by it. So let's do this. Let's take on the ghost ship! Oh, wait. Hold on a minute. Didn't this version of Link already tackle a ghost ship? Tetra acting like ghosts aren't real seems silly, honestly. Actually, it is nice to see the humorous writing of Wind Waker was carried over. These characters are still just as silly as ever. That's awesome. Regardless, Tetra vanishes into the ghost ship while Link tries to pursue. He ends up in the ocean instead. Eventually, he washes on shore to an unknown island. There, he meets an old man and a fairy with no memories named Ciela. Ciela. I think it's Ciela. Ciela? Yeah, I'm just going to say Ciela. I really haven't seen this pronounced all that often, so we'll just go with that. Ciela ends up joining Link and is basically the stylus pointer for you on your adventure. You are instructed to find a sailor, and you do, eventually meeting Linebeck. He is trapped in a dangerous temple, and you save him. You eventually learn the temple is tied to the ghost ship and find clues there, leading to different temples. In these temples, you find different fairy guardians working for the Ocean King. In the third temple, you find a comatose fairy. After Ciela merges with it on behest of the old man from the start of the game, Ciela gains some of her memories back. This isn't too shocking since the old man gave you the Phantom Hourglass, an item allowing you into, the Ocean King's temple, proving the old man knows more than he lets on. After finding all three fairy guardians, you chase after the ghost ship. You encounter it before in some fog, actually, but, yeah, the game builds up the ship for a long time, and I do actually appreciate it. You get lost chasing it the first time you actually see it, and you have to navigate the fog passing it for now. Well, with the three fairies, you can use them as a guide to find the ship. Get on board and save Tetra. You succeed and actually save her, but her soul is gone, leaving her more or less basically a rock. This is where you start to learn some things. First off, and to anybody who played this wasn't exactly surprising at this point, Linebeck was only palling around with you to find treasure on this ghost ship. Since the rumors are false, he actually tries and leaves the game, which sucks because you're using his ship. However, the old man promises him a wish if he helps Link. Linebeck is back on board, although he hasn't done much being the coward and all. Yeah, Linebeck is there for comic relief. He is a coward and not experienced adventurer like he claims, and he is only helping you for his own sake. As for the old man, he's actually the Ocean King. See, one of his fairy guardians, Ciela, were attacked by a monster named Bellum, and this fairy split its life force, duplicating itself, giving him the idea to do something similar. See, Ciela was always a guardian working for the Ocean King, and the Ocean King is trapped inside of his temple. The monstrous creature named Bellum attacked him as well. Bellum is trying to suck the life force out of the Ocean King, and after a fight with the Ocean King losing, the Ocean King was sealed away. Bellum is slowly sucking the life force from him, from wherever he's sealed at. Bellum is also creating monsters and created the ghost ship in an effort to steal more life force from unsuspecting citizens looking for the rumored treasure on board. It is up to Link to slay Bellum and save both Tetra and the Ocean King. But to do so, we're gonna have to actually forge a sword. Naturally. Hey, does that swordsmith look like Ganondorf? Like, I'm not trying to be, like, weird here. He kind of looks like a Gerudo. Huh, that's so weird. Anyway, 3 more dungeons with materials needed, and bam, new sword. Now, Link can not only slay the phantoms in the Ocean King's temple, but hurt Bellum himself. Or, itself. Yeah? Yeah, itself. Sounds so weird to say. Anyway, after a long fight, Tetra is saved, but Bellum isn't fully dead, and yeets off with her to his ghost ship. After sinking the damn thing for good, Bellum ends up catching Link and Tetra, leaving Linebeck to gather his courage and stab the monster. In a rage, the monster sinks Linebeck's ship and possesses him in a last-ditch effort to defeat Link. Link kills the monster, saving Linebeck. The Ocean King's true form is revealed to be a whale-like creature, like some of the other powerful creatures in Zelda lore. And all this turns out to be a different world. The Ocean King sends Link and Tetra back to their world, revives Linebeck's ship as per his wish, and honestly sends Linebeck to their world as well. This is a good story. No. It's a great story. Not only is it overall plot pretty good, but the character writing is really great as well. Like, for example, CL hates Linebeck's cowardly nature. Well, of course she does. She ends up being the spirit of courage. Linebeck grows as a character, and this isn't out of nowhere. Though slightly predictable, Tetra and her crew are great, and few scenes they're actually in. Unfortunately, Tetra's sealed away, and her crew are in another world for the most of it. Honestly, though, A+ in the writing department all around. Not the greatest tale ever told, but done super well, in my opinion, for a video game. So, moving past the writing, let's talk about how the game looks. I had some issues going into this game about the looks, actually. But despite still images looking absolutely dreadful, in motion, the 3D models actually look pretty good. A lot of the reused music in the game sounds pretty decent as well as the reused voice clips for various characters. The enemies and boss fights are well designed with the Wind Waker art style, but they're still original to this game and work well design-wise. However, the level design and the original music are kind of bland and boring. The dungeons, unless they have all sand or ice, all look pretty identical outside of their puzzles. Not all of them look the same, but it happens more than enough times, particularly around the first couple of dungeons. The music is also kind of bland too, outside of the tracks that were reused or, inspired by Wind Waker itself. Some of the islands look kind of similar to one another too, robbing any location of identity outside of the puzzles. Again, it happens mostly in the first couple of islands. It's serviceable, and since character models and enemies look on point, it does make up for it until an island or dungeon actually do stand out. I'm calling out the last few islands for looking original and being super memorable. Finding the spirits of Cobble Kingdom in their respective dungeon was amazing. What happened here? Then there's how the game actually plays. Oh boy, do I have a lot to say about this one. First off, I will say it is amazing what the touchscreen can do as a controller function. Drag the stylus to move Link, swipe to attack or tap enemies, grab items and use them, or tap the screen to jump up on something. This works most of the time without error. But there are some limitations. Sometimes I'm trying to click on something and Link ends up attacking it. It's not the biggest deal unless you're trying to hop away from danger or quickly grab something like, I don't know, a bomb flower. Yeah, it's fun to attack, trust me. I don't like it. Again, not the biggest deal, only really happens during the boss fights when the camera is forced to change. No, sadly, it is the items that are the biggest issue of this game. You click on the item menu, click on that item you want, then you put it in the item box, which for some reason you only have one of. Yes, you only have access to one item at any given time. At least you have, access to the sword at all times, but this does become an issue. Then, after you do all that anyway, you click on the item again and aim it while the enemy is taking a few pot shots because you didn't expect that one enemy to show up that is really weak to the boomerang. I mean, seriously, how could I not expect that I need my bow out around this corner when walking in this room? What's wrong with me? Also, while puzzle solving, these tools work great. In combat, some of these don't work well as weapons, like the previously mentioned boomerang or bomb shoes. They're just too slow to use as weapons. I will state that this is easily the biggest problem with the game. The rest of the game works fine. Yeah, it isn't my favorite mode of gameplay, but it functions. It functions perfectly fine, other than item switching mid-combat. The issue is you have to do that a lot. So, temples and dungeons in this game are pretty good, other than one notable exception. The puzzles are clever and fun to solve outside of a minor few that are just absolutely frustrating, and I recommend a guide. And the boss fights are pretty fun, despite the camera change that messes with the controls a tad bit. The islands, while visually bland, have unique puzzles that make them fun to explore. Enemies aren't too bad to deal with, but can be annoying due to the item switching issue I mentioned earlier. Some of these dungeons are just super fun. Then there's the Ocean King's Temple. This temple just sucks the life right out of the room. Literally, actually. See, that's where the Phantom Hourglass comes in. If you run out of time on the damn thing, this temple sucks the life right out of you. So, questions. Do you like waiting around? 4 stealth sections with unkillable enemies? Time limits? Puzzles that reset every time you die? How about some of the most annoying puzzles? Annoying enemies built to stall you? Doesn't that sound fun? Let's do this dungeon 6 more bleeding times. Yes, you have to repeat this dungeon. Yes, all of the puzzles reset. Yes, this dungeon is always trash and doesn't get any better. Ever! I hate this dungeon with a passion. Like, hate this dungeon! It's practically ruined any enjoyment I was having with this game. Oh, having fun? Go back to the worst dungeon in the game, please. Hope we didn't break the pacing with this bullshit. You know what else is slow? The sailing. It returns in this game and it is just the worst. Awful beyond compare. You literally just sit there watching an animation. Every so often, something will happen. An enemy will pop out and attack. Hope your brain didn't wander off or fall asleep in the boredom while you're waiting for the enemy to actually show up. Your boat doesn't have much health either, so if you aren't fully watching the long, drawn-out animation of sailing, you're gonna die. Your only other input is drawing a course on the map. They took one of the worst things in Wind Waker and made it worse! Not even I can defend this, and I like the sailing in Wind Waker. These two things just kill this game, pacing and fun. Shame when everything else about the level design brings the game up. Isn't that weird? You know what else brings the game up? Secrets and side quests. Yeah, these are great. No, there's no but. These are just awesome. They really are. I'm serious. I'm going to gush for like a couple minutes here. You can find these gems of courage, power, and wisdom. If you get 10 of these, you could upgrade one of the fairy guardians. Yes, not just Ciela, though you can upgrade her as well. When you do the first few dungeons, you gain a fairy spirit, and you can upgrade them on a secret island. Wisdom gets you more defense, and power upgrades your attack power with, oh hell yes, a fire sword! Ha ha ha! So not only does my fairy companion change, but I get a fire sword. Love it. I'm using this the rest of the game. Bellum, here I come. You can also find ship parts that bulk up your ship and find plenty of treasure, like more sand for the Phantom Hourglass, heart containers because pieces aren't a thing in this game for some reason. You can also find treasure to sell for more money because everything is super expensive. And of course, item upgrades holding more bombs and arrows, you know, that kind of stuff. There are a few mini-games here and there as well, and they're okay. You can salvage treasure on the ocean floor with a crank. Just don't damage it too much or it will cost you money. And the thing doesn't heal up between treasure hunting. You will have to pay for that too. Overall though, it's a small complaint on the grand scheme for finding treasure in this game. And the other minigames are actually pretty fun, so there. So, Phantom Hourglass is an interesting grab bag of ideas. For the most part, the game is good. 7 out of 10. It's just the biggest flaws are bigger parts of the game, and they end up standing out a lot more than they probably should. Level design is great other than one temple that you end up visiting all the time, and the ocean which you have to constantly travel in. Gameplay is perfectly fine, but get into battle when you need an item and it gets annoying really quickly. The game looks great, but the levels themselves are slightly bland. Luckily, the writing and side work are really good, with only a few minor flaws at most. I wasn't a fan of this game. I disliked this game. But I recognize there is a lot of good here. While overall I have issues with the game, there were fun moments. If you don't mind touch controls, unlike me, and, you know, you like adventure games, maybe need something for the DS library, try this out if you haven't already. The only way to get this is to buy an original DS cartridge, or buy it on the Wii U for $10, which I feel is a fair price. Honestly, it is a good game, regardless of my personal feelings towards it. Try it out. In the meantime, I think I might want to look into something more associated with PlayStation. Maybe something with a bit more orange in it. In the meantime, Bellum has been slain, the ghost ship destroyed, and I'm looking for my next target. Until then, take care, my minions!